Viruses. This was I did a video with this. Do not use one of those as a bee hat. They will get in there. I have pictures to prove it. So we're going to talk about, I said I messed up a lot. I didn't say I was a good beekeeper. I do pretty well though. I keep most of my bees alive and I make a lot of honey, so. So nosema, this is not one that you're really going to have to, this is not one that you can really do something about. You're not going to see nosema unless you have a 400 zoom microscope, but this is what it would look like if you were to have a 400 zoom microscope and you were to be into that kind of thing. I'm kind of nerdy. I used to look at aliens under a microscope. When you have a microscope, everything's an alien, right? Undisclosed. Nosema might look like this, but this isn't a for sure sign of nosema either. This could be a really bad case of dysentery. So long story short, you're not going to know if you have nosema, but there are signs that could lead to it being a problem. In most cases, nosema is going to clear up before you would ever see it. It usually clears up with the first major nectar flow. You have nectar coming in, the bees, they start doing all of the different enzymes in their stomach, glucose oxidase, invertase, all of the different enzymes that convert sucrose into glucose and fructose honey. It clears up the bacteria or the fungal issue of nosema. But there is fumigillin. I put this on there, but this isn't something that's necessary, but this is what they currently use to treat nosema with. And there's different strains of nosema. So what I want you to take away from this, if you were to see this, don't freak out. Give them some 1-to-1 sugar syrup if you're not into a nectar flow. Otherwise, it usually clear up. A lot of times you'll see some streaking on the hives if they've been stuck in the hives for a month or something, or a week, and maybe it snowed in front of the hive, and you see some of this on the upper entrance where they went out and they couldn't hold it before they got out. You know, they're running to the bathroom. I don't know. So if you were to see this, just don't freak out. It's okay. It could be nosema, it might be nothing. Usually clears itself up. 1-to-1 sugar syrup, you should be able to clear it up. So chalk brood and stone brood. This is one of those fungal, one of those 20 fungal species that live in the hive, and this is a saprophyte fungi, which means that this fungi feeds on the host, and in this case the host is larva. So a lot of times you'll see these little mummified hard little bees in the bottom of the hive, and what happens is you got nights that's dipping below freezing, and you've only got so many bees that can cover the cluster. So your bees are trying to huddle over the brood. They're trying to keep the brood warm. They're shivering over the brood, and a lot of times the bees on the outside edge, they die. And when they die, some of the local fungi inside the hive decide to use the bee's body as a food source. So it'll go from this white to a gray to a brown to a black, whatever stage the fungi is in. These are the tiny fruiting bodies. If you were to look at it under a microscope, it just looks like tiny little mushrooms. And there's lots of different colors. You can see green ones, yellow ones, all different stages of this. And sometimes it's just different species of fungi that cause this. But all of these little mummified bees, all of those things, stone brood, chalk brood, I think there is a chilled brood. That's just a different stage of this. It's all due to the bees getting too cold, dying, and being fed upon by fungi. So this is not something to freak out about either. 1-to-1 sugar syrup, it gets them going. It'll help a lot of the different things. If they've got 1-to-1 syrup, they can feed the bees. So, European foul brood. This is a larval stage bacterial brood disease. This one is the one that's easy to clear up. What you're going to be looking for, and you can see this a lot, especially in the spring. This is something that was really big in, I think it was 23 or 24, I can't remember. But there was a lot of cases of European foul brood, and what you're going to see is twisted larvae. You're going to see a spotty brood pattern. You might smell that kind of sour smell, like gem socks coming out of the hive. A lot of times it'll smell like goldenrod honey too, if you've ever had the pleasure of experiencing the smell of that. It can be confused with that, but there's only really one for sure way to tell if you have European foul brood. We're going to talk about how to cure European foul brood. There's two different ways to cure it. So the first method of curing it is TerraPro, and TerraPro, it has an active ingredient which is oxytetracycline. And if you were to get this, you would need to get a veterinarian prescription for this. It would start with having your state inspector come out, like he was talking about Shanda King. That's your state inspector. There's local inspectors that she sends out. They'll come out with a test kit and confirm if you have it or not. They're always going to recommend that you go with TerraPro, and in most cases your apiary will be quarantined before you are able to start producing honey again. So with this treatment, you have to do 3 treatments with 4 to 5 day intervals. In between the treatments, you're going to take 2 tablespoons and you're going to divide it up with the brood chambers. You take the tablespoon and you sprinkle it on the ears of the frame down the edge. And you're going to do that 3 times. So we work with Shanda and 23 to find a better way to treat it. So let's talk about what oxytetracycline is first. It is a tetracycline is a group of broad spectrum antibiotic compounds that are isolated from Streptomyces bacteria. So this is an antibiotic, but it is derived from nature. It's not something that's freakishly made in a laboratory. But this is not something that you want to have. You don't really want to use this if you don't have to, because you're killing the entire microbiome of the bee's stomach. And if that you can't eat the honey, humans can't consume the honey, so you can't produce honey with this on. But this is how they want you to handle the situation. This is how all of the, I ain't gonna say all, but most of the states are dealing with European foul brood using this antibiotic. That's how they would suggest clearing it up. We work with Shanda on how to do it with a more organic approach. So you can mix up canola oil, tea tree oil, eucalyptus oil, and camphor oil. And basically what the oxytetracycline does is it disrupts the bacteria's ability to synthesize proteins. So it essentially starves the bacteria to death. The essential oils essentially do the exact same thing. It disrupts the bacteria's ability to synthesize protein, and it starves the bacteria, except the difference is this doesn't show up in your honey, and this makes your honey consumable. And one of the downfalls that we found with using the oxytetracycline is where you can't have honey supers on. If you have bees that you're going through this treatment that could potentially take 15 to 20 days to do, and you're in the middle of a honey flow, where are they going to put the honey if you can't have honey supers on? They're going to put it in your brood chamber. And when you get a honey-bound brood chamber, this leads to swarming. So we would have an entire apiary under treatment, and then we would have an entire apiary with the swarms of bees hanging out in the bush right here. So that was one of the problems that we found, but with this, you can put your honey supers on, you mitigate swarming, you can still collect the honey, and it's just as effective. So we did 10 trials with the shop towels, and that's all that is the blue paper towel shop towels. I'll make up a batch of that. I'll keep it in a jar, soak a shop towel. You lay the towel right over the brood chamber, and the bees come into contact with it. when trying to take the paper towel out of the hive because it's a foreign object. And when they're doing that, they get all of that in their mouth parts, and then they trophilax with each other when they're doing the communication thing, and they spread it around to each other and they get rid of the bacteria. So American foul brood, this one is a lot worse. It smells a lot worse. It's got a lot of the same characteristics as European foul brood, except this one is in pupal stage. You're going to see the shoddy brood pattern. You're not going to notice this one on the larva. This one's going to be under the cells. But you might see sunken cells. You might see cells with perforated holes in the cells. And this is where your inspections are really important, what you're looking for. So this is why it's important to look for that pearly white larva to know that you don't have European foul brood. If you see the little mummies in there, you know that it's either stone brood. You know what happened there, that it's not a problem, because there's a lot of diseases that aren't really a problem. They sort themselves out. There's some that are a big problem. American foul brood is one of those that's a big problem. This is one of the unsolvable problems. This is a spore-forming bacteria that attacks the larval stage. And it being a spore-forming bacteria, it's not something that you can treat the hive for, because the spores are in the comb, they're on the equipment, they're in your bee suit. If you come into contact with this one, you have to burn everything that you have. Like, that's the only treatment for this one, is to burn it. And just like with the European foul brood, there's no for sure way to tell unless you have a test kit. You can order test kits online. If you suspect that you have AFB or EFB, it's American foul brood or European foul brood, you should always contact your state apiarist, which would be Shanda or whoever comes out to inspect your hives with them. And you could do a stick test at home if you suspect. You just take a stick or a toothpick and you stir it around in one of the cells that you suspect have it. If you pull it out and you see a ropey strand of brown snot, is what we're going to call it. If it ropes out to about 1 inch, you could have American foul brood. If it ropes out smaller, you could have European foul brood. It could be your first sign that you need to call someone. So it's not a for sure way to tell, but it's kind of like, okay, this is a problem. This is roping out now. After you stir that larva around and it's all in there, like, that bacteria is going to hold that goop together into a strand.
Okay,
Yes.
so let's say you have a beehive or something that died out,
Yep.
and you don't know why. So, I mean, is that an issue, or can you just freeze your frames and reuse them? Or what would you do in that?
With American foul brood, that's not something that you can freeze the frames for. Most cases, and you're not going to know for sure, but in most cases in West Virginia, like, there's not been many cases of American foul brood in West Virginia. This is mainly a major pollinator problem where you have massive amounts of bees go, like millions of beehives go into the almonds, or millions of beehives go into the oranges, where it's just like going to the city. You're going to have a lot more disease at the city. It's more likely to spread. We have had very little cases in West Virginia, and I think the one case that we did have come from a commercial beekeeper in the northern part of the state. I don't know who that is. I'm not making any accusations. I'm just going on what was told to me from the inspectors. This is not something that you really have to worry about. And if you suspect you have it, call your inspector. They can come and confirm. If you've got larvae in there and there's no bees and there's still like cat pupa, they can still come and test it to see if that's what it was. Most cases, if you have no bees in there, they've either absconded or it's been a mite die-off over winter. If you come to a hive and they didn't come through the winter, it's usually due to mites or the cluster being too small or just a number of other reasons other than American foul brood. And that's more of like a warmer season disease that you're going to experience anyway. And it's not going to be one hive. If this hive dies and you still have a healthy hive right beside it, you can be sure that it wasn't American foul brood, because they'd all have it. Your entire apiary would die out. So that's the treatment for American foul brood. So The only for sure way to test is these test kits. You can get these online. If this is something that you are concerned about, you can order these online. And this is the thing, you have time with the European foul brood to solve it. The American foul brood, you don't have any time to solve it. So if you suspect you have it, like they're dead anyway if you have American foul brood, right? So if you suspect it, order a test kit. If you don't want to order a test kit, call the inspector. They'll bring you a free test kit. They'll put you up priority on the list to come out. They'll be out there that day to check and see, and they'll give you what steps. And if they tell you need oxytetracycline for European foul brood, say, well, Jay said we could use essential oils. Just say, is there an alternative? Jay said there's an alternative essential oils, and they'll direct you in the direction of using the essential oils. And then they'll come back out and test to confirm if it's went away or not. So if you're using the proper application, the essential oils do work, because we've tested before and then we've tested after to verify that it works, if it's done correctly. So European foul brood, this is kind of what you would see zoomed in on European foul brood. You're not going to see this of American foul brood because it's pupal stage. European foul brood's larval stage. So if you start to see discoloration of larvae like this, you see how this one's not sitting in there right? It's kind of up on the wall there. You've got this one that's kind of twisted around, and they always stick their tongue to the wall before they die. I don't know why that is. Maybe I need to look a little further. So what we see in the adult bees is they don't leave the hive as often, because it also affects the adult bees. It's inside their gut. That's how it gets into the larva. So the adult bees, they don't leave the hive as often. Here's another picture. More discoloration. They start to dry out, turn brown to black, and then they eventually melt into the bottom of the cell. So the adult bees, they don't leave the hive as often. They don't leave the hive as long. So when they are leaving the hive, they're not out as long on a flight, because they don't feel well, right? If I don't feel good, I'm not going to go to work and stay all day. I'm going home. I'm going to go kick it at the house. They're less productive as well. So while they're out there for less amount of time, not as often, they're also not doing much while they're out there because they're not feeling well. So here's another good picture of what that would look like. This is one with its tongue stuck to the wall. I know you can't see its tongue, but that's what that end is. That's the mouth end, and they always attach it to the wall for some reason. I don't know if what that is, why they do that, but that's just a case of what they do. And you can see that spotty pattern too. So you got spotty cells, and when you see spotty cells, this doesn't mean that you have European foul brood. This could mean a number of different things. So that's why it's always good to read your frames. Spotty brood pattern doesn't always mean that you have European foul brood. It's a sign that you could. What really is important, what is in between the cells? Like, how does the brood look in between? Are there eggs in these empty cells? Is there pollen in these empty cells? Is there nectar in these empty cells? Because that could mean that you're pollen bound or that you're honey bound. If you see eggs back in these cells, that could just mean that you have good genetics, and they pulled out, like the bees, they have a grooming genetic, and they've pulled out cells that they found varroa mites in, or cells that they found disease in, and the queens went back in and laid an egg. So reading your frames is very important. And you can do all of this on one frame in 5 minutes. If you pull your frame out and it looks healthy, you got bees wall to wall on the frame. None of them are discolored. None of them are perforated cells. You got good eggs in there. The hive's working hard. Then you've seen everything you need to see inside that hive. You've taken in a massive amount of information in a short amount of time. It takes a little bit of training on what to look for. Why am I here? Before you go in, why am I going in? What's the reason I'm here today? What job do I need to do? Because the less time you're in there messing with the bees, the more they can do what bees do and make honey for you, happy and healthy. You know, I'd be kind of mad too if somebody come in and ripped the roof off of my house and dumped some smoke in on me and took my whole kitchen off and went over here with it. You know, I'd be pretty angry too. So the less of that we can do, the more they can live their lives, and that's less work for us too. I enjoy beekeeping, but I got a lot of bees to visit, and I want to do it as quickly and efficiently as possible. So this is Shanda King's information. If you all suspect that you have American foul brood or European foul brood, or if you just want them to come out and inspect your hives, if you're planning on selling bees, they'll put you up on the priority list and get out to see you first. So it's always good. They do longitudinal studies if you want to find out what kind of diseases are in your hive, what kind of mite counts you're having, because there's a lot of diseases that are associated with mites. If your mite count's low, your disease count's probably low. And if you're like really into all that stuff, they can get you into those programs, and you just participate, and yeah, works good. All right. So this is what a healthy pupal brood pattern would look like. You see, there might be a few holes here and there, but that's pretty tight knit together. So that's kind of what you want to see if you were to pull a pupal frame. And most of the time when you look on these edge frames, you're going to start to see larvae. Then you're going to start to see eggs further out. And I don't know the pattern of the frame because each one is going to be different. It's usually oriented where the sun is. And sometimes like you'll find eggs in the middle, larvae around the edge, pupal around the far edge. You know, I don't know the science on why bees construct the hives the way they do, but most of it is ecological triggers and it has to do with the sun. So it just depends on how your hive's oriented. Each hive is going to be different. You have to read each one a little different and individually, but you kind of want to streamline your tasks to be the same. So most of the time, if you go 4 frames over, you're going to be right in the center of the brood nest. Find what you need to find. Always start with the outer frame first, that way you don't roll your frame around. Look for your queen if you want to. I don't like to ever look for the queen, honestly. I despise looking for queens. I don't want to ever see her. If I see her eggs and see she's doing good, I'm good. That's all I want to see. So, healthy larval brood. Look at that. Wall to wall, pearly white. That's what we want to see with our larval stage brood. If I can see that and a few eggs, I'm out. I don't need to see anything else, anything at all. Eggs. If I see that, I'm definitely out. She's there. They're standing up. She might have put that there this morning. There's some laying down. There's a good, healthy stage of she was here today, she was here yesterday. So you kind of want to look at your cohesion of brood, and you can even see, if you know what to look for, you can even see when you lost a queen. You can look at the stage of the brood, you can look at the stage of the pupa and the larva and the eggs. You can know down to if you lost her 2 days ago. If you get in there and all your eggs are laying over and you've only got 1 or 2 up, then she was lost like really close to 2 days ago. So just knowing a little bit of what to look for is going to go a long way. Having structure when you go into doing inspection is going to streamline it. It's going to make it a lot more enjoyable, especially when you're not losing money on bees, because I've lost a lot of money on bees. Any questions before we move to the next section?